as prescribed by VTCA Government Code Section 551.041 to consider the following agenda items. Items do not have to be taken in the same order as shown in the meeting notice. Sandra, please note that we have all of our council members here except for Suzanne. She is not with us tonight. We also have yourself, Chief of Police Danny Smith, IT Dave Street, Eric Blade, our city engineers in the back, Roy, our development service directors in the back, and Josh, our city manager, is here. If you would, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, so agenda item number 1 is city attorney confirmation.
Mayor, if I may, the item before you now is a process that the city staff has gone through. We've had the same city attorney for a number of years, and city staff made the decision to go through a formal process for requests for qualifications. We advertised for firms to submit their proposals to us. We were very excited. We received 10 different qualifications. We put together a team that reviewed those 10 proposals. That team of 5 went through, selected the top 4. We used that same interview panel. We included yourself, Mayor Tidwell, as our next panel for the interview. We interviewed the firms, and the city staff, with you included, made a unanimous decision to accept the Alan Borquez law firm as our city attorney. Per our city charter, the city charter states that the city manager shall appoint a city attorney. That is subject to the approval by the council. Therefore, we've presented that to you tonight. Dorothy Palumbo, aka Dottie, is here tonight to answer any questions of the firm. If you so happen to affirm this decision, then she'll stay and work the rest of the meeting. If you decide not to, then she may just get up and leave. If you have any questions, we're available for those questions.
All right, so I'll open it up to council if y'all have any questions.
When y'all went through the process, any concerns with the top couple and specifically the one you chose? Anything that stood out that you'd have to, be aware of moving forward?
Mayor, the best thing that we're real excited about is with the firm of Alan Borquez and with Dottie Palumbo. Both of those two individuals have extensive Texas municipal league experience. That was one of their strengths. Not only do they have that experience, but the staff of the firm is beyond qualified. They have a talented roster of attorneys, and then they have a roster of professional consultants. I think that's beneficial for our city, for our staff, so that we're confident if we have an issue that arises, we can get an educated response in a timely fashion. So I think we had, as I put into the staff summary, all 10 firms were very solid. I think we could have easily been using any one of those 10 and we would have been happy, but we didn't want to just stop at happy. We wanted to go with the best, and I'm very confident that we're presenting the best firm in the state of Texas by far. It is a little state, so there's only a few law firms. I think there's 560 some law firms. I'm very confident we were presenting the best law firm to the council.
Do you need a motion for the affirmation?
I will entertain a motion if there are no more questions.
Mr. Mayor, I'd be more than happy to make a motion that we accept the recommendation of the city staff and yourself in naming the, I'm going to mess up this name 100 times before this is over, but it's Borquez?
Ford is.
Okay. Law firm has our new legal counsel, and that the proper actions be taken by the city manager to establish that agreement.
I'll second that motion.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Any further questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Hearing none, the motion carries unanimous.
Thank you very much. We look forward to the opportunity to serve the community and mayor and council and staff.
Thank you and welcome.
They're on the clock now, Mayor, so we gotta keep things tight.
7:30, set her goal. All right, so now we move into citizen comments. In accordance with the Open Meetings Act, council is prohibited from acting or discussing other than factual responses to specific questions, any items not on the agenda. And I have one request from Richard Starry. If you would, sir, please approach the podium. State your name and address, just for the record, if you don't mind.
It's Richard Sterry. I live at 21405 Coyote Trail. First of all, I want to, as I do periodically, point out that there is absolutely no hyphen in one nation under God. We don't need to pause, one nation under God. Okay? I just, periodically, I'll remind you of that when I hear it. I want to thank Danny and his officers for attempting to do something about the dog situation over on Coyote and the surrounding streets. As some of you know, 3 weeks ago, on Wednesday night, I got bit. I got bit in my own dooryard. The situation is really not any better than it was. What's happening, someone is turning dogs loose right at 10:30 at night. You can set your watch by that. So what I ask is that, since this is being broadcast, that if people that own those dogs are listening and paying attention, which is probably not, that they be well aware that I am more than willing to report every violation I find of it to the city council. And I understand that the dog ordinance situation is a little tough. For those of you that are not aware, there are 2 dog ordinances. Not 1, 2. And I don't know what conflict there is in those, but we ought to get it down to 1. I think I'm right, so that's one thing. I want to also commend Roy for his bravery, because I saw him sitting in his truck out there with one dog that in the neighborhood is friendly, sitting on his butt right at the door wagging his tail. So, Roy, congratulations on your bravery. Danny, if you will, ask your officers to hit that street.
Thank you, Richard. All right, at this time, is there anybody else in the audience that didn't necessarily sign up but would like to speak at this time? Yeah, if you don't mind.
I got a clipboard. You want me to just tell you?
Yes, you have 3 minutes.
No, oh, come on. That's not what I intended.
You timed it just right.
Ma'am, are you talking about something that's on the agenda tonight? Because if so, you can talk at that time.
Well, I don't know what we're doing in this afternoon, so, am I going to hear?
What is your topic?
Pardon?
What are you?
I have 2 topics, basically.
Okay,
So I hope I get 3 minutes apiece. I'll do it one way.
are either of those on the agenda already?
I didn't get to look in the room later, I'm sorry.
What are they over? I can tell you.
Okay, no, they're not.
Okay.
I don't think so. One of them was about the post office. I briefly spoke with you about it at town hall meeting. I really want to address that because I want people to hear this. Because if the people don't activate it, it's not going to happen. The mayor can request it, but he wants to do it if the city wants to do it. Bottom line is, and then the other agenda was the outright sale of the
Okay.
come up whenever you want me to come up.
You're up right now.
Oh, really? Okay, my name is Joan Davis. I'm the resident in North Little League. But anyway, everybody I spoke with, and I'm sure there's people in this audience, true, put your hand up and say it, that has gotten mail lost continually at the post office. And you go in, and every 2 or 3 times a week, I hand them something. This is gone, didn't get that, or you don't get a utility bill, or you don't get something. And it's because they don't have enough people at the post office. They've got one lady that travels between 3 post offices. Point Venture has 78641, their own zip code. We have 78645, and I don't know what Leander has 78641. I don't know what Point Venture says. She is barely there. That's like running a business with no boss all the time. And you've heard about the Amazon thing that talked about how post offices overloaded and all this kind of, well, it's sure overloaded here too because they deliver packages. But the real issue is there's no boss in charge ever, and they pretty much do what they want. I've been told by, who was the fellow that Arthur, was not Arthur, the other fellow that was there forever at the post office. You know what I'm talking about? The tall guy? What's his name? Michael. Yeah, he went to Leander, just got disgusted with the whole thing. And I talked to a short black guy, won't be discriminatory, but that's, I don't know his name. He bumped into us at Walmart and started going off on what all was going on at that place. And it was bananas back in that chaos. And the lady that's the postmaster, I guess she is, that travels, she's got some personal problems. And she's always on the phone and she's crying and she's doing this and they couldn't handle all that. So they all quit. I mean, they quit. Arthur's the only one who's there. So Cedar Park did not even have a zip code, and they got fed up being under the Leander. And so they went to get a zip code, which is harder to do. All we have to do is request it. But we've got to activate the people to request it. The only group that I can see that's united in this town, since I've had a lot here since the 80s, we CO'd on our house in 2008. And the only people that I can see that are really active around here, or have been, is the golf association. I mean, really, it's kind of like we're living all here, but nobody gets together on anything to seem to do anything about the issues like that, as far as the zip code and the post office. I guess I can run both of them, didn't I? I think that's really the thing. I did call San Antonio, and they told us, and they gave me some names. I did tell San Antonio about the issue, and they said, oh, the mayor has to please request it. I don't know if you have to put it on the agenda and have some people vote on it or what. I don't know.
Is that to request a zip code?
No, to request that we have a full-time postmaster.
Postmaster.
7,000 people are almost doing it. And we're supposed to, I don't even think Marble Falls had that.
Okay, well, your 3 minutes are up. Did you have,
I wanted to talk real quick about the.
real quick, your 3 minutes are up.
As I told you when we met at that town hall, and very few people came to that meeting. There were like 6 people there, and that's kind of ridiculous. I mean, I think more people should come, listen, and try to do something with the mayor here. He's trying hard, and there was nobody there. I think there was a couple and 2 other people, my husband and myself. That was all. The bottom line about the Otwell House, if you sell it at an auction, you're not gonna get the $4 million that you guys put into it, probably what the house is worth. And what's gonna happen is, it's gonna hurt property values because the appraisers, when they go to sell, somebody else wants to sell a house in the Lago Vista area, especially a higher end house, they're gonna go by what that house went for a while anyway. And I did recommend an international realtor, personal friends of Marilyn Hoffman, who has places all over, she's out of Dallas, and she's one of many, but she's all over Europe. So, she can get her house sold back with this. I personally sold 2 very high-end houses on the Robert Foot. Back in the day, I did a VHS on it, had an inquiry time. Realtors didn't even want to drive out to 10 miles, 12 miles in the country where I had my 50 acres. And then I went ahead and I did a Robert report. People called. I found out I wound up selling it to better
you. Thank you. All right, we're still in citizen comments. Yes, sir. Please approach and name and address for the record, please, sir.
I'm Robert Mickey. I own the hangar, 2010 Flagler Road, just south of the ramp. I'd like to thank the city for providing cones. We had a Young Eagles event last Saturday. We flew 42 kids for free. We did that last October. We did 30 last October. And we're going to do it again in October, the fourth Saturday. This is the Spring Miller Aircraft Association event. I'm the Lake Travis EA chapter president. So anyway, if you'd like to, that's all I want to do is thank you.
Robert, if you don't mind, when y'all have these events, y'all can notify us. I would like to be in attendance. Yeah, I didn't realize it was this past weekend. So I'd like to be included. Possible. All right, anybody else? Citizen comments? All right, we are gonna move into agenda item number 2. It's a presentation regarding Motorcycle Safety and Awareness Month. I have with us tonight Mr. Trent Pope. He is involved with a couple of organizations, the Coalition of Independent Riders and U.S. Defenders, the Texas region, and they promote motorcycle awareness and safety. They have a website, looklearnlive.org. He's here with a couple of friends, and they would like to address council about having a proclamation for the month of May. The month of May is the Motorcycle Safety and Awareness Month. Tonight is just for presentation, and then we will take it up consideration at our next council meeting on the 19th. Mr. Pope, if you would.
My name's Trent Pope. I'm a resident here, 2901 North Mountain. I'm gonna kind of turn this over to Richard. He's the Coalition of Independent Riders. He'll have any answers for questions you may have. There's more about what's going on.
Councilmember, Mayor, I appreciate the opportunity to present to you this evening. The month of May is Motorcycle Safety and Awareness. We spend a lot of time working not only through the independent motorcycle community, but with TxDOT and other organizations on the motorcycle safety and awareness. What I'd like to do is present to you an opportunity to recognize May as the month of motorcycle safety and awareness. Presented to you will be a proclamation for your review and approval, signing. Should be coming to you shortly. I have a hard copy that I can talk against, and I also have statistics that I can talk against. And if appropriate, at the end of my presentation, maybe we have a photo op session. Just one quick picture.
Sure.
So, what you will hear when you receive the proclamation is a statement of motorcycle safety, a month of May's motorcycle safety and awareness. And you will have a statement that reminds of all road users, pedestrians, bicycles, cars, motorcycles, and trucks. To look twice, motorcycles are everywhere. Due to the smaller size, we talked about the motorcycles emissions awareness being seen. Motorcyclists should always operate their motorcycles in a defensive manner and coordinate with the laws. Motorcyclists are asking that motorists get in the habit of looking twice for motorcycles. Motorcycles are everywhere. 2017 motorcycle crash statistics. I'm trying to come up with another word. Let's go with stats. Everybody's good with that. Thanks. This is fiscal year 2017, calendar year 2016 stats. We've got over 380,000 registered motorcycles in the state of Texas. That's 1.58%, less than 2% of all vehicles registered in the state. Very small number. But in that time frame, there were 2,011 incapacitated fatalities on motorcycles. 34% of all related crashes were intersection related. 29% of the crashes occurred when another vehicle attempted to turn at an intersection. And I can give you some examples of fixed objects, see tree, hit tree. car pulls up to an intersection, car looks over the left shoulder, car looks for car. Car doesn't look for bike. In the comfort of your own time at home, just for fun, get another family member to put their hands out in front of them as though they're on the steering wheel and ask them to look over the left shoulder. Watch their hands. It will dip. We see this when we're in the road. 69% of all reported crashes occurred within an urban area. And 58% of all of those fatalities occurred within an urban area. When I come and I have presentations, when I talk to city councils and members of the community, I have to relate at different environments. City, urban, rural. And here in the hill country, we present a whole new opportunity. When you put yourself in your car and you measure from the ground up to your eye level, your motorcycle from the ground up to his eye level, when I come across the top of the hill, you're far beyond being able to see the top of my head with contact, especially in our rural communities we have out here in Lago Vista. My statement is motorcycles have the rights and privileges of all other vehicles on the roadways. I want to restate that to motorcycles have to honor and drive with all the privileges they have on the roadway. We have to yield to. Had a brief conversation with a friend in the parking lot of doing a dual left turn lane turn. And I did an exit onto the sidewalk and turned into the parking lot. Because she reported the officer, I didn't scooch over. I went for the scooch over side. Road conditions are minor annoyances to vehicles or hazards to motorcycles. I have a trophy in my garage. It's a 12-foot long, 2-inch chain. It came off the back of a tie down of a flatbed, and it went spiraling across the road. And God above, and the Ninja Warriors, it spun right in front of me, and I drove through it. A 2x4 at an angle represents an obstacle that will cause me to go down, a car up. I'm asking that when you see an obstacle in the road and a motorcycle, be prepared, because I'm going to take an evasive maneuver. Following distance behind a motorcycle. I will go into a corner and I will downshift to be in the appropriate gear to exit the apex of that corner. But when I downshift, I'm slowing my speed. I don't have my brake light on. We talk about covering our brake to let the vehicle behind us know that we're going to slow down. But all too often, when I work a crash and when I walk away from that, what I hear from the driver is, I never saw the motorcycle. Motorcycles have a much smaller profile, difficult to judge distance and follow behind. In the last 20 minutes of my presentation, I'd really like to talk about cell phone use. Text and talk later. Rack your system. Leave a message. Get back to it. It's and using a cell phone or driving a car is real obvious. We call that the lap check. You can watch the head disappear. You can watch the eyes disappear. So, month of May, motorcycle safety and awareness. We ask for your support in signing the proclamation to recognize the event. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Kim, those of us who live out here, I guess that's pretty much everybody, but we're definitely aware because of the desire of the riders to come down 1431 to their hill country. So
This presents an interesting opportunity, Mayor. I spend a lot of my time working with friendly new riders and getting acclimated to their bikes and getting 1,000 or 2,000 miles underneath their belt. And 1431 from Lago Vista to Marble Falls is not the place you go learn how to ride a motorcycle. I stopped at your gas station across the street and picked up 3 young fellows that were on their way to Marble Falls on their bikes. And we backed off and went out 29 and went that way. Their heart was in the right place. They were so excited. Brand new scooter, 500 miles. Okay, thank you for your time.
you bet, you.
Can I ask one question?
Please, thank you very much.
No problem with the proclamation for the month of May. I understand that part, but how do you get your general message out to the community, you know?
So there's many opportunities where I really like to capitalize on is working with TxDOT
Okay.
on the Look, Learn, Live initiative. So if I have a major event, be it motorcycle, be it a car show, be it a rally, I can invite TxDOT to come out. They have a great presentation booth, and we spend a lot of time manning that one. They have a blow-up a motorcycle, which is really attractive. They actually have a physical motorcycle, which civilians and non-motorcycle riders can sit on, can drop. and can figure out how to pick back up again. It's just a personal interaction. That, lots of communications, a lot of time on the ground. Monthly, I hold a bike night at a restaurant where a bunch of riders come in, and we can work that community. And then I work across the entire motorcycle community throughout the state.
But there won't be any brochures that we could pass out to the neighborhood or anything like that?
Oh, sir, I have many for you.
Okay.
I'll be right back.
Okay.
Yes, we do. We have brochures, flyers.
Okay.
We have the Look Twice sticker, which you will see on sanctioned areas of your highway, where, for instance, CTR has taken responsibility and volunteered and owns a section of highway, which they go and they maintain, pick up the trash, keep it clean. And you'll see Look Twice motorcycles everywhere, triangle. They come in small, medium, and large, and they work real good on the neighbor's kids' driver's window.
Okay, thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you for your time.
Any other questions? Did y'all had a request of something before you leave?
Yeah, only if it's appropriate or works in your schedule, we can come back. To unfurl banners to take a picture.
Sure.
Outstanding.
You got to go in there.
Where do you want us? Down there?
They'll stay put, we'll come there. Respectfully submitted, Mayor. With the ambassador from the motorcycle community, had to say was.
Yeah.
Whatever you want to do.
Thank you very much. Yes. Yep, just make sure we get that. If y'all have something already.
Yeah, it's tons of flyers, so.
Thanks, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you for coming. Appreciate it.
Thank you. All right.
Thanks, sir. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you for coming.
With that, we'll give your meeting back to you. Let the temperature go down a little bit.
All right, real quick, just a little housekeeping. We have, since this is our first live session, we do have people monitoring to let us know how it's going. Feedback is, you cannot be heard unless you're speaking into the microphone. So anybody coming up to give a presentation, please make sure you're speaking into the microphone. All right. So we will now go, number 3 on your agenda. We do not have for this meeting. That has been delayed, it's been pulled and will be given at a different time. So we'll move into public hearing and possible action. I want to note, council members, this is the first time we're actually hearing some of these, but they are time sensitive. That's why they're on this agenda, first meeting of the month for possible action. As we go through each one, I will leave that up to y'all, since y'all make the motions on the possible action portion. So we'll move into agenda item number 4. Lago Vista City Council will hold a public hearing to receive citizen input and take action on the following item. Ordinance number 18-04-05-01. This is a public hearing amending Appendix A, fee schedule, Article 3.000, building-related fees, to amend Section 3.100, building permit fees, Article 5.000, subdivision fees, Article 6.000, utility-related fees, and to amend Section 6.100, impact and tap fees, and Section 6.200, utility rates and fees for the Code of Ordinances, providing an effective date, repealer, severability, proper notice, and open meetings clause. I will turn this over to Eric Belay. He is our city engineer, and he will present this.
Mayor and Council, good evening. What this ordinance is, since you guys have a city engineer on staff, the vast majority of the changes that we're making is to allow for the city engineer to do plan reviews and change those fees accordingly. As it stands right now, all the developers, when they come in, they submit or they pay a certain fee, which is a deposit. It can vary between $2,500 up to $10,000. And then the city hires an outside consultant to do that plan reviews, and the consultant charges against the deposit, and whatever's remaining, then the deposit goes back to the developer. So what this ordinance does, it actually reduces the overall cost of the developer. Although the fee schedule, you may see that some of these fees are going up, the overall cost to the developer is actually going down substantially. So that with the way staff is recommending this is to advertise it as Lago Vista is development friendly, so we're reducing the upfront cost to the developer to do business with the city of Lago Vista. That is one main thing that's happening on this fee schedule. The second item is we're providing for the sale or resale of reuse effluent. So there's and according tap fees. So we have tap fees. Currently, we have tap fees for water and wastewater, but we don't have any tap fees for reuse. There are no impact fees associated with that. Because to do the impact fee, you'd have to go through an impact fee study. But there are tap fees for the resale reuse. And there's some other changes to the impact fee. I'm sorry, to the impact fee, to the Appendix A of the fee ordinance, which is providing for costs or providing for some fees for the line extension ordinance, which is actually the next ordinance down, which is number 5. We'll be talking about that shortly. But I'm not sure if we need to open that up before I start talking about the mayor. Is that something we want to do?
Josh, is that something we need to open up first?
Mayor, we could open up the other item. I think that the presentation that we've got in the fee schedule here, I think is going to be sufficient unless there's a specific question back from council based on those other changes. If we did need to revisit it, we could come back and revisit this item if it's something we're not going to move forward with. So you could open them up simultaneously, and we could start that presentation for the other item. However, council would prefer to do it.
Does that work best for you?
It's that I suppose so. Yes.
Okay. Then we'll go ahead and do that. So at this time, I'm going to open up agenda item number 5 also, which is discussion and action on ordinance 18-04-05-02, an ordinance of the city of Lago Vista, Texas, amending chapter 13 utilities, article 13.700, water and wastewater line extensions, providing an effective date, repealer, severability, proper notice, and open meetings clause.
Mayor, Councilor Weatherly's going to lead this discussion. I just want to point out that in his presentation, there's a handout that's been provided to you. It should have been sitting, I believe, to the left of your seat. So if you look at that when you're following through, that'll be part of the slides he's put together for this presentation.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, our city engineer brought it to my attention that we have a budget issue with the current policy of providing 150 feet of extension of our water and sewer lines going into the future. We currently provide this at no cost to the citizen, and it costs the city approximately $7,500 per line. We had a budget to cover these line extensions, but with the number of buildings that are going up, with the number of requests, we have already significantly exceeded our budget. And we are looking at a number that could possibly be as much as 3 times that budget and exceed as much as $1 million. If you look at the things that are presented in front of you, you will see where the budget line was and where we currently stand. There is also information on the second or third page that shows you the budget that was allowed versus the cost. This is something that we have been doing for a long time, and it was wonderful to help bring people into the community and help them with their building. But I do not feel that this is something that we can continue to support. If you look on the first page, you'll see a list of the other cities in the area. You'll find that there is no one that provides free line extensions to those that are building, those that are going into projects in their area. I do feel a need to assist citizens that are building a house. And in our fee schedule that we were just looking at with the 01, we have a graduated cost for the services provided for those line extensions, starting at 5% for any individual that is building their own home, 10% to a builder, and then 15% to a developer. We will also, under this ordinance, provide engineering and support activities to help the individual with getting their lines and getting hooked up to water and sewer. It is unfortunate that we are having to look at this, but we are looking at a situation where last year we had almost 300 building permits, whereas in years past, it may have only been 50 or 60. And we're online this year to be well over 200. Roy's predictions, probably 250 or better. And I just do not feel that this is a cost that we can continue to absorb in the city budget. It's something that we need to turn over to the individual that's building the house and give assistance to that individual that's building on their own, but with our contractors, with our home builders, with developers, let them pay for the cost of bringing those lines into their homes. Any questions?
At the projected rate, what did you estimate our loss to be at the end of the year?
It could be as much as twice what we have budgeted. The budget was 300 and, I don't remember the exact number.
383.
383. But if we continue with what we're doing and we have as many as the 300 permits for the year, it could easily as much as double that number. It will double that number for sure, because we're already past that before the middle of the year. And we're not even to the heavy building time of the year. Something close to $1 million is not hard to imagine at all. And the other side of this, one of the things I didn't bring into this, should have had Dave here to give us all this rundown, but one of the things that's costing us money in another area is that with these line extensions, we are tying up the city water creek. And therefore, we're ending up having to contract to do taps, to open up water and sewer to these new homes where the lines exist. And that's an increased cost that's not even reflected in these numbers.
Mayor, part of that number that we've discussed with council before is the inability for us to stay ahead of the development. And I know one concern that was expressed by Councilor Smith before was, if we're not able to get ahead of it, then how are we working with our developers so that they can continue to build? As Councilor Weatherly said, if we're out of this business and we're therefore inspecting instead of doing these projects, completing the projects, that allows the builder to work on their schedule more effectively than to work on our schedule, waiting for, potentially right now, we could be sitting on 48 taps. I don't know right offhand what the last report shows, but let's estimate.
36.
Let's estimate somewhere around 40. And so that's 40 properties that are waiting for our installation, not just our inspection.
If we were to pass something tonight, would it impact people who have their permits already pulled, for example, for this extension? I'm assuming they would continue under the old policy. Anybody who files after we passed it tonight would be impacted by this?
Right, that's correct. So what happens is anyone that's actually already been permitted would operate under the existing. Anyone that pulls a permit beginning tomorrow effective, then they'll have a new policy code ordinance to operate under.
They're grandfathered.
We can ask them if they want to pay.
Yeah.
And if they want to install themselves, but.
I was more concerned about it going into effect as soon as possible so that we stop bleeding.
And it would actually help the construction phase, but they will still operate under the old. Part of our discussion with any new developers has been to inform them that council will be considering this item, and we'll have a response once council considers the item. So whenever it's officially, there's action taken on it, we have pitched that to developers. The majority of the people that I've been involved in discussions with Roy and with Eric have said they would like to wait to start their project until after council takes action, because they would prefer to go ahead and use their own contractors and move forward with their project. So as I've already stated, it's on their schedule, their timeline, and they can build accordingly.
It would definitely speed up the process.
Yes, I was with Councilmember Weatherly also, and I believe we need to do this. Whether you take action tonight or not is one thing, but I think we need to move forward with this particular process and get our staffs back to doing the things that we get paid to do, and let the developers pay for the things that they need to do. This has been a holdover from prior years, and it wasn't really obvious until the building picked up that the problem became, obvious. So when you're doing 20 homes a year, you don't see it. When you do 200 homes a year, it becomes obvious. So I would encourage, whether we vote tonight or not, I would encourage the council would favorably upon approving this ordinance. I think it's going to allow our Public Works Department to get back to the maintenance business more and get out of the development business and let the developers develop and we do the maintenance.
And one other thing that is in there, we also discussed that we would have contractors approved by the city, and that we would help the individuals with getting certified, approved individuals come in and do that pipe, to lay those extension lines, so that we can ensure that they meet the standards of all the other lines that we already have in the ground, and can maintain the standards that we want to.
I thought I read something that said that we would inspect them when they're finished before
Yes,
we cover them.
we will do the inspections, and they will become our lines once they are completed. But as you said, this is a bleed that needs to be stopped. It is not something that we can continue to take care of for our citizens, for our builders, for our contractors. It's something we need to rectify, and the sooner we do it, the quicker we stop that loss.
We were up around 70 or 80 on the backlog of the taps, and then it dropped down to the low 30s, upper 20s, and now we're back up to March 22nd, back up to 59 again. So, we threw a lot of contractors at it. We burned it down, but now it's flipping back up on us again because of the growth.
There's another trap in there?
again, because of our recording, it's not open, this is not open for public hearing, but
Citizen comment, right?
I will allow public comment. but this
There is another potential trap, and that's on the streets. We've got a lot of streets in the Lago Vista area that are very definitely substandard. And there's very little construction on them. As we run out of building sites that are on very accessible streets and that may or may not already have water installed, there are gonna be costs involved there to make sure that those streets are brought up to code. And in all probability, there'll be houses erected without that necessarily being done, and that can put another burden on the city.
Any further questions from up here? Okay, so is there?
Are we making a motion on both of the two
Not
items
yet.
at once?
Not yet. Is there anybody else that wants to comment just on this specific?
Subject? Yeah.
I'm Greg Billings. You mentioned something about some percentages, 5%, 10%, 15%. Would you clarify that again? I didn't
Yes, sir.
understand.
We were looking at the cost of doing this to someone who's building their own home. This is an added expense that probably no one would be thinking about, and it may be that they've had the experience of building before and experienced that free extension to their home. Citizens that are building here, individuals, we would like to help as much as we can to move into Lago Vista, to become citizens here, have a home here. So in discussing this, we looked at the potential effect on the different groups. One that we looked at that would probably be affected the most would be the individual. So as part of this ordinance, we would assist with the engineering. Eric would be able to provide help with that. And we would waive some of the fees for inspections, checking what is done through our contractors, but there is still administrative expense with that. And that is the 5% fee that we came up with of the project. In other words, if it's $10,000, then you would owe $500 or whatever. Then the second level is for our builders. Individuals that come in are just building a home. They're not putting in a whole infrastructure situation, not developing a whole area, they're just building a home. Then their fee will be 10% because there is more involved with that. And then the individual that is a developer, someone who's putting in a large number in a certain area, wishing to have the extensions and water and sewer run to it, that will be 15% of whatever that project cost is. And that will cover the city's expenses for doing the inspections, checking the job, possibly repairing whatever has to be fixed in the way of roads or side damage, whatever. But we feel like after discussion that these are fair numbers, and it's a fair way to move this burden onto the individual's building rather than putting the burden on the city. Does that answer your question?
Mayor, Council, for the record, my name is Patrick Charlton. I currently reside at 3702 Alamo Cove. This is actually my first meeting. What you're speaking about is exemplary in me. We just moved here as a family 2.5 months ago. We were in the process of, we just cleared our land, and finally, if my wife can pick plans, I hope she's not listening right now, we'll start building at some point. I actually, it's kind of fortuitous that I'm here today. I guess what I would ask you, as a citizen who will probably be under the next $7,500 paying for the first, 150 feet or whatever, what happens if we move further than 150 feet? I heard one councilman say you would retain ownership of the lines, obviously, because it's a municipal water system, we understand that. But would there be a rebate back to citizens who build first? In my area on Osage and Thurber, we would be the first house that goes in for approximately 2 or 3 blocks. So when we bring the water, is there a discount if we pay for the upfront cost? After that, what would be the rebate to the customers that then use the water for the line that I paid for?
The city at the current time does not cover anything beyond 150 feet. So anything that you put in beyond that, or anything required beyond that, has always been the builder's responsibility.
Well, but I think the way that it works is, you'll do the entire extension, and then for 10 years, you have the ability to get rebates back from people who tap into that line.
That was my question.
Yes.
Those, we're not changing any of that. I'm sorry, I hadn't been able to read the ordinance whatsoever, so none of that is gonna be changed.
No, we're not changing any of that. All that we're essentially looking at is the $7,500 that we've been paying to get those extensions done, because with the building that is going on in the community, number of homes requesting extensions, it has just become something that we no longer can sustain with our budget.
Well, if you didn't have such a great community and such great schools in a real close proximity to the lake, you wouldn't have this problem. We wouldn't be coming.
We might not, but.
No, you've answered my question.
Okay, good enough. We're glad to have you.
I have to admit, I got a question based on Greg's question. You went through and explained it, and I think I still don't understand it. I think I'm just being dense. But you just talked about the $7,500 cost for doing the 150-foot extension.
Yes.
Let's just say it's 10,000 because the math says you're 500.
Yeah.
Who picks up the other $9,500? Is it the city?
No.
And okay, so that's what I'm trying to find.
What we're doing with this is we're getting the city out of paying.
Right, totally get it.
That $9,500. We're getting the city out of paying any of it.
Okay.
Okay?
So
Mayor, let me take one stab.
Okay.
2 different things we're talking about here. We referenced $7,500 for the line extension.
Okay.
The beauty is, when you go to build your house, it could only cost you $3,000 to build it. That's one side. So I think that's where it's gonna be a benefit to the homeowner. This is our system, these are the costs that we've got fixed. The homeowner is still gonna pay the entire project.
Okay.
What we're talking about, the 5 to 15%, as it's listed in the ordinance, is the administrative fee for engineering and inspection.
okay, so it's just a small part of the
Part of that
Okay.
expense for an inspection fee. So we're gonna have a fee for inspection. For example, Dave Stewart's gonna go out and inspect the HDPE because he's an HDPE genius.
Right.
And so that's what we're gonna have in staff. Instead of him having his crews install it, he's gonna inspect. We're gonna charge that fee for the inspection. You're gonna build your house, we're gonna come out. It'll be a smaller fee for you because you're only building one. And then we have the ordinance in place so that if you do build a larger line, we give you that rebate plan for the period of 10 years. Anyone else builds, you recoup that, as Councilor Sutherland laid out. So totally different lines,
Okay.
separated completely.
Thank you. Appreciate it. I get it. That's me being dense. I think Greg's got one.
Greg?
One more brief question about the rebate plan. Can y'all explain what the rebate plan is and how it's implemented? Do the homeowners who install the line extension at the beginning, do they have to apply for a rebate when they see another home gets built on their street, or how does that process work? And
Mayor, if I
can you
may,
outline that?
the way that this has happened with the city previously is exactly that. The property owner is going to pay to build the entire line. They'll come in and they'll set up an agreement with the city that says, I would like to have a rebate plan. We have a couple of these plans that we have active now. We have some that we've used in the past. And then every time a lot develops, the person with the rebate agreement will make contact with the city, request that rebate. We'll go out. The rebate plan actually shows the total project cost It shows what each lot in theory would pay. It gives an estimated for the line length, and it's based on the line length. So if you put in a $25,000 line, one lot could be paying you a rebate of $1,800. So as your neighbor builds, they do that, we add that as part of their permit, and then it comes back to you.
Once the agreement is in place, though, that's it. You don't have to, like, 8 years down the road, somebody decides to build, you do not have to come back in and fill out an application for that rebate at that time, because you've already established that agreement up front.
And just be aware that you would want to encourage all those other people to develop within 10 years, because if they don't do it in 10 years, then you won't get a rebate. The 11th year, they get it, and you do not get a rebate.
Staff? So, we have agenda item number 4, which is open, but currently not open to the public hearing. It was just a staff presentation. Before we go back to agenda item number 4, Eric asked that we bring up number 5. So number 5 is on the table right now. So we can either take action, or we can go back to Eric and agenda item number 4.
Mr. Mayor, let me get to the page. Hang on just a second. I would like to make a motion. It's funny down here, I thought it was. There it is. I would like to make a motion that we approve ordinance 18-04-05-02, an ordinance of the city of Lago Vista, Texas, amending chapter 13, utilities, article 13.700, water and wastewater line extensions, providing an effective date, repealer, servability, proper notice, and open meetings clause.
I'll second it.
David? All right, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Hearing none, motion carries unanimous. Eric, we're back to agenda item number 4. At this time, before you get started, I'm going to go ahead and open the public hearing portion at 7:28 p.m.
Thank you, Mayor. That opening up the agenda number 5 was important because fees were related to that. So this number, obviously, the agenda number, item number 4 is fee related. Actually, I didn't really have anything else more to present unless council has any questions for me and staff in general.
I do have one question.
Yes, sir.
These impact fees, P&Z is working right now to decide when they're going to have their impact fee discussion on all fees. How does that impact all these fees that you show here?
It does not impact these fees at all. We are not touching the impact fees on
Okay.
updating this
Gotcha.
fee schedule.
Gotcha.
Other than on reuse, and that's an
There's
addition.
no impact fees on reuse, only tap
fees.
Tap fees, yes, sir.
I didn't have a question, but you know me, I think I've taken over from Mayor Mitchell for grammar check. On electronic page 13, there was a whereas the city council seeks to establish a protocol for the sale of reuse, and then it just ends. I think it's supposed to be reused water or effluent.
Just reuse.
Just reuse. Okay, I stand corrected. Thank you.
I have a question on electronic page 21. We're in exhibit C, number 2. It says construction administrative fees, which we covered agenda item number 5. 5% of the estimate for option 1, and 10% option 1A, et cetera, et cetera. I didn't see where in this it showed option 1 and option 1A. What page was that on, so that I could refer to option 1, option 1A, option 1B. And option 2, D is option 2, and I don't know.
That one, Mayor, is actually on the line extension ordinance. There are different options.
Okay,
option
so it's
one.
down in 5?
Right.
Okay.
So that's why it was important to open up both of these items at the same time to discuss.
Yeah, look at it, electronic page 32.
32?
That's where you'll find those options, I believe.
Oh, okay, yeah. Option 2, there's 1A, 1B. Thank you. I knew it had to be there, I just couldn't find it. Questions?
Kind of self-explanatory.
All right, well, at this time, we do have a public hearing open, so if there's anybody in the audience that would like to ask questions or make comments, the floor is open. Craig?
Your affirmation of that motion that you passed regarding the sewer line extension, so is that implemented right now so that no other line extensions would be done without the city covering that first 150 feet? So that is effective from this moment forward, is that right?
Once it gets signed.
Yeah, as soon as,
Once it gets signed.
as soon as the mayor signs it, confirmed by the clerk, it's effective.
Just want to clarify when it became implemented. Thank you.
All right, if there's no other questions, I'm gonna go ahead and close the public hearing session at 7:32 PM. And at this point, any further council discussion or possible action?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we approve ordinance number 18-04-05-02, an ordinance of the city of Lago Vista, Texas, Lago Vista amending chapter 13, utilities, article number 13.700, water and wastewater line extensions. Hold on, I'm on the wrong one. Hold on. Let me get. I read it off
We've
the
already
bottom of
approved
that one.
them.
I'm sorry.
Here you go.
All right, I'm on the right one now. All right, I'd like to make a motion to approve ordinance number 18-04-05-01, an ordinance of the city of Lago Vista, Texas, amending Appendix A fee schedule, Article 3.000, building-related fees, to amend Section 3-3.100, building permit fees, Article 5.000, subdivision fees, Article 6.000, utility-related fees, to amend Section 6.100, impact and tap fees, and Section 6.2, utility rates and fees, providing an effective date, repealer, severability, proper notice, and open meetings clause.
I'll say.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Hearing none, motion carries unanimous. Right. Item number 6, discussion and action on ordinance 18-04-05-03, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Lago Vista, Texas, amending the official zoning map by rezoning Lago Vista Estates, Section 6, Lot 1873, at 7600 Loman Ford Road, from the C1C Professional Business Office Low Density Retail District to the C2 Commercial Large Scale District, and providing for related matters. Roy Jambor will be presenting.
Mr. Mayor, council members, this one seemed fairly simple to me. We were approached by a potential future owner of a piece of property that is immediately north of the Phoenix Automotive, across the street, and immediately adjacent to the little building that most people probably don't notice that actually houses AT&T equipment. You don't ever see any people there. It's there if you look carefully. This is the piece of property between those two poles. The potential future owner was interested in developing a convenience store. It's currently zoned C1, which would allow that use. However, as you probably seen in the staff report, a convenience store, as you heard from me before, is not a typical C1 use. The C1 district is intended to be professional offices, extremely light retail. And by extremely light retail, even a gift shop is usually considered 2 and 10 for C1 use. And having said that, okay, and knowing that we're going to start correcting these things and maybe having ordinances that are more consistent with current best practices, we felt it obligatory to inform the gentleman that there's a good chance that he might become non-conforming in the future, and that he might want to consider taking action now to prevent that situation. Probably even more importantly, your current master plan that you recently adopted recommended that this property should be C2 for more intense retail. And the same thing is true, for example, of the uses that are already there. An automotive repair store is at least, consistent with C2 and certainly inconsistent with professional office. So that's the sort of thing that the master plan, or the comprehensive plan, was intended to be corrected. So this looked like a very convenient opportunity to take that action and start implementing the master plan. The gentleman was completely aware that if he applied for a permit that same day, had a set of instruction plans that we would approve as being very consistent with the ordinance. But he had no problem with taking the recommended action to prevent future anomalies.
So I understand this is more of a recommendation coming from you than the property owner desiring a change.
Yeah, I mean, he was certainly consistent that the representative of the applicant and the current property owner is here. Some of the discussion, it wasn't a unanimous, approval or recommendation or approval by the Planning and Zoning Commission. But the discussion, really centered on the use, which seemed to kind of ignore the problem is that A, he can build it now, and B, the concerns about the use have to do with traffic, which is really, Eric and I's problem. I mean, except for the fact that it's a use by right today, we wouldn't even mention the future use. It's the real issue is C1 or C2. It already has the characteristics of C2. It's being used like C2 now, and your comprehensive plan says you should make this C2.
Roy, let me ask you a question. If he could build it now, and you're trying to correct the situation to go with the master plan, why wouldn't you just cover that whole area where the Phoenix Automotive is and everything else to make it
just
all
because
C2?
It's generally, that may be the case, but it is generally more acceptable to respond to a particular application rather than you guys advertise, get permission from the property owner's consent. It's a little more cumbersome, if you will. It's probably more consistent, and I would say universal, that you simply make these changes, in response to at least a potential outlet. I mean, it's not that you don't have the authority to go in and make these changes, but it's usually a little more, I want to say, user-friendly, that you wait for an applicant that owns the property and say, yeah, I'm okay with this, rather than involuntarily rezoning the property.
So you mentioned that the P and Z considered it, and it was not unanimous?
No, it was a 3-2 vote,
Okay.
5 people there.
And
And it had to do with traffic concerns.
The two that were opposed to was
Right.
traffic concern?
Right, and it's a small piece of property, you know, for a city store.
Right.
That was brought up to them immediately. There's a sliver of property behind there that I think he may already be in the process of acquiring. He's also, I think, acquiring the rights to use the adjacent property for impervious surface and or detention, although I'm not so sure how far along he is on that. All of those are discussions we've had, as well as the access management issues. But once again, that really doesn't have anything to do with zoning. You know, he would not have to, if he were applying for C2 on his own, and came to us and said, I just want to make this C2, property next door has that characteristic, master plan says that, he's not obligated to tell us what his future use is. That's, if we had an overlay or it was a specific use, you know, approval required, those were the kind of things where the design would be integral to the approval. Straight up zoning, that's not the case. And that's what this is. Those are all concerns that he's aware of. You know, there will be, he will not be able to put driveways where he wants to. Those driveways will be limited in width, perhaps even which way you can turn coming out of them. All those things. And already in discussion.
There were 12 notices that were made, I believe, and there was one that was a no. Did you receive any other comments since P&Z had it?
It showed up at the hearing, there was someone that expressed concerns about traffic. And that's, I think, the P&Z members that voted against recommending it to, I think that was their concern as well, is access management.
Well, what you're telling me is that even if we do not rezone this as C2, under the current standards, he could go ahead and build the building that he's talking about.
Like I said, he did not come to us with the intention of seeking rezoning of the property. Only after our discussions did he do that.
But he's okay with C2 zoning?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
He applied for it. We didn't do it against his will.
Oh.
But, and if you guys, maybe you don't know what I mean by non-conforming. If he were to get a permit and build his building under C1, and in the future, we cleaned up the ordinance and made C1 uses offices only or light retail, he would be in a situation where if he wanted to expand his building, he couldn't do so without rezoning the property.
But he would be able to continue operating as a convenience store.
Right. And some people call that grandfathering. That word kind of bothers me a little bit. Non-conforming. I've heard that word used very, very loosely and incorrectly, so I prefer non-conforming.
Okay.
But yeah, a lot of people call it grandfathering.
So Roy, your recommendation is that we approve this?
It's consistent with the comprehensive plan.
All right.
Any more questions? So I know this is the first time this has been on the agenda, so I will leave it up to y'all, but it is up for possible action.
I'm willing to speak if y'all have any questions. Send you up before I can go out and speak to you about it.
I will open the floor, Greg.
Again, I'm Greg Billings, and I'm a real estate broker here in town. I represent the applicant. I represent the owner of the property, and I'm of counsel to the actual person who's under contract to buy the property and develop. Our contention actually for pursuing the C2 zoning was founded on basically everything Mr. Jambor just told you, but also, you know, Loman Ford is the second, I guess, the second busiest road in Lago Vista. You've got Highway 1431, you have Loman Ford, and this subject property is only a couple of blocks off the intersection of the two main arteries. And what the applicant intends to do is build a convenience store with a delicatessen, and of course, fuel storage and fuel sales, and also beer and wine sales. Basically what most modern convenience stores do nowadays. So with the delicatessen, there will essentially be a restaurant of sorts. And the concern was that given that that use was a non-conforming use, the analogy I drew before the Planning and Zoning Commission was that if you have a use that's non-conforming, it could affect your future use in that building in the event that you go to sell it, or as Mr. Jambor said, expand the building or add on or what have you, that you have a non-conforming use. And we kind of thought of that as a license. A license is revocable. And we didn't want to place ourselves in a position of investing all this money to build the infrastructure and to build the building and get it going with any imminent possibility that the use could become non-conforming or be challenged or revoked at some future day. And so that was a concern. When I attended the P&Z's hearing, there was a lady who stood up and was concerned about traffic. And as I recall, she was concerned about traffic down Northland Drive. And she didn't seem to be concerned about traffic on Loman Ford, because you're going to have traffic on Loman Ford, whether you want it or not, you know. So, and I think that the impact of traffic down Northland Drive for a convenience store at this intersection is probably not going to intensely affect traffic going westbound on Northland Drive. And that seemed to be her concern. So I don't have anything more to say. I think we would like for you to welcome this vote and to approve the zoning change, because I think it makes good sense for all the reasons Mr. Jambor said. And I think that collectively, a number of the properties along Loman essentially do need to be C2, and this is just one more step in that direction. So we appreciate your consideration and hope you vote positively to support. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor,
Yes, ma'am.
this is a zoning change. You do have to have a public hearing, published notice in the newspaper 15 days prior to passing your zoning ordinance. Also in your packet, I didn't see where you have prepared a zoning ordinance. I don't know if that's your practice, but I would recommend that you, when you're considering this, that you go ahead and publish your notice in the newspaper to meet the requirements of state law, and then also have a proposed ordinance for council to consider. Is this the second one? You've heard it?
We have we placed the one ad for the P&Z public hearing and this one at the same time. So it's actually well in advance.
So, but have you had the public hearing?
This one, this is the second motion. Yeah, one from P&Z, and this, oh, you're saying he didn't open the public hearing for this?
It wasn't advertised as a public hearing.
Right, it was advertised previously as a public hearing. You're saying on the agenda? It's not
Correct.
advertised. All right. No, it was advertised in the paper. I answered your question.
It is underneath the public hearing section, number 6.
And I thought we prepared an ordinance, didn't we, Sam?
I
There's no ordinance in the packet that I saw.
Okay, I prepared one.
So it is under, it does provide notice to the public that it is part of the public hearing section, so you, Mayor, need to open a public hearing on this item before you consider it if you choose to. Since you've advertised for it.
But are we still missing something?
Well, it seems like maybe the ordinance itself didn't make your packet, but I'm pretty sure I prepared one. I know I did. I usually give that separate, so no, I don't attach it to the old packet. That may be why it's not in your electronic version. I can go pass one out real quick. Print?
Well, yes, please. In the meantime, I'm gonna go ahead and open the public hearing section for this agenda item at 7:50 p.m. We have already had staff presentation. The public hearing is now open. Greg has already spoken as part of the presentation portion, but if there's any other questions or comments from the public at this time, it is open.
I've got a comment.
Do what?
No.
I looked at this property about a year ago, I think, fairly extensively. I've got a long-range plan of opening a wine bar and restaurant somewhere on commercial property here in town, and I looked at it toward that end. And in regard to the lady who is concerned about traffic going down the hill from the site, about 75 feet or 100 feet maybe down that road, there's a road that goes on, one of those unfinished roads that goes off to the right, which was a detriment to what I was going to do, but it certainly should alleviate her fears about traffic, because it give you two ways out of it.
Thank you.
Greg, just to pass a little time, I got a question. Seems like there's a convenience store right across the street. Oh, okay. I see. So, I was just curious if that had been considered.
Since
But,
this is
yeah.
the public hearing, you should go up to the microphone so the public can hear you.
Sorry, I didn't mean to put you on the spot. I was just trying to spare some time.
I understand your motive there and concern. You know, newer and better. I was thinking about this on the way over here today, that if you have another one, maybe we can get some lower gas prices in the
A
area.
little competition,
bit more
yeah, that's a good
competition.
idea.
So,
Okay.
you know, that's all I can say, that they feel a need for it and want to invest the money and want to come to the community, so.
Right.
That's all I can say.
Yeah, I wasn't planning on voting against it. I was just, again, trying to spend a little time and thought I'd engage you in conversation.
Well, we know we could use another eating place in town.
Exactly.
We would welcome that, I think.
What about the shopping center? What's gonna happen to that?
We've got the ordinance number.
Totally different topic. We gotta stay on topic. So we can't talk about the shopping center. Maybe another day.
If you look at electronic page 35, we do have the ordinance number.
The 18-1230R-REZ.
Yes.
One more.
on our own.
Here, did you get one?
It's
We
lovely.
can look at it.
I've got all the
You know
variations
what it
and all that
What is
stuff.
this? I'm sorry, Ken.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah, sure.
I figured you
What is
said
this?
P&Cs.
That's a rezoning.
Where is that in here?
I don't know if he's ready or not.
It's actually, this is.
You got those
I'm
opposed.
sort of informed.
I'm sure.
Motion would be this one. Okay, take that one. That's gonna be a permanent number in there.
Thanks, sir.
I think I got it.
I do.
So to make a motion on this ordinance, what does that number refer to?
That's their permit number.
The application?
Yeah, so that would calculate rezone.
Oh, okay. Gave this via P&Z.
Yeah, I'm okay.
Okay, so for clarification, this here is the actual ordinance number we are considering. The one I directed you to on electronic page 35 is, their permit application. So, I have not. Public hearing is still open. Is there any other comments from the public at this time? All right, well, I will go ahead and close the public hearing portion at 7:56 PM.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion for ordinance number 18-040-05-03, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Lago Vista, Texas, amending the official zoning map by rezoning Lago Vista Estates, Section 6, Lot 1873, 7600 Lomans Ford Road, from the C-1-C Professional Business Office Low Density Retail District to the C2 Commercial Large Scale District, and providing for related matters, sorry.
I second that. All right, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Hearing none, the motion carries unanimous. Okay, we will move to our consent agenda. As I was, action item number 7. Discuss and consider award of RFQ bid for Lago Vista Clubhouse renovation project.
Mayor, this item presented to council tonight is in response to the Series 2017 CO bonds completed by the city council. In that bonding package, there was $242,000 attributed back towards repairs at the golf course clubhouse. City staff put together a request for qualifications to renovate the clubhouse. We received 2 proposals. Similar to other processes, excuse me, we created a panel of 4 to review those proposals. We scored the proposals. We decided, since we had 2 qualified proposals and applicants, that we would interview both of those. We went through the interview process. City staff selected the proposal completed by Craftsman Builders. That information has been included previously to City Council. What staff is presenting to you tonight is a notice to award a bid to Craftsman Builders and to allow the city manager to execute a contract in a not to exceed budget amount. As noted in the staff summary, although that capital improvement plan project budget was set at $242,000, there have been expenditures that have occurred from that item, and now that project budget sits at $196,670.01. In order to complete that project greater than that amount, then council would either need to execute funding from another source within the bonding, or to use funding outside of the bonding source. I have project information in front of me if there are questions. We've discussed other projects before. As noted in the agenda packet, if council were to approve the project budget at a not to exceed $262,000, then the additional amount needed for the project would be $66,329.99.
The expenses,
Question.
the expenses that came out of that 242 were for what, architectural?
Mayor, $32,000 of that, roughly $52,000 were for architectural expenses. There were other expenses that came out in terms of remediating a drainage issue, a drainage pipe, roughly $9,600 of a pipe that's used in the kitchen, a flooring issue that was also located in the kitchen facility where a freezer was sitting, and then the downstairs walls had holes and other issues that had to be addressed. So the majority, $32,000, architectural design, an additional $19,000 in projects.
The original budget amount that was in the CIP for this item, it was supposed to be fairly focused on structural and electrical issues, is that correct?
Yes, sir. So the way it's listed under the project description is electrical and foundation structure repairs to the golf course clubhouse. That's how we listed it in the explanation section. The actual project and the CO bonding just puts the title head and the location. But the way it's listed in our staff project description is exactly that: structural or foundation, structural, and electrical.
Just more curiosity than anything else, how did we expand beyond that into fireplaces and bars and tables and chairs and all kinds of things like that?
Mayor, in our discussion at staff, the opportunity to correct the issues that were presented through internal staff that we have on board was in the opportunity to correct a lot of the issues there with this budget amount. Our recommendation was the budget amount exceeded what was needed for just those repairs. One area of specific focus would be the restrooms. Great concern on the restrooms, and then remediating the walls on the underside. Part of the drainage issue being impacted by the outside situation for the grease traps. In our discussions, we felt we could do more with the money allocated by the council, and went through this process to see what more we could do. I think we were relatively excited about the fact that there's a lot more we could do with the money allocated at this time.
Yeah, and I completely get that. And I mean, you and I have had this conversation. I guess my concern is that, you know, we had a couple of public safety intersection control issues that were in the CIP, you know, Boggy and Loman, the Camille Dawn, but we also had other public safety issues around the public that are Safe Routes to School program. And when those items came up, the light at Boggy and Loman and the school, Safe Route to Schools, there wasn't, oh, let's go beyond budget and take care of all these items that seem to be over budget. We cut things off. And in this particular case, we're saying, well, let's just go beyond budget and take care of things that weren't in the original definition of what we wanted to accomplish. And so what I guess I'm curious to see is that could we make sure that we take care of the two items that we pulled from the light at Boggy and Loman, and make sure that we take care of the issues on the Safe Routes to School first, before we allocate dollars from other items for this particular item. I just, you know, public safety, stay with public safety, for example, if you will. And I just one last comment about this. I'm a big advocate of fixing the problems at the golf course clubhouse. We have issues. And you know, when you start talking about, you know, the restrooms and other public safety issues, I don't have in mind any problems allocating funds over to those types of things. But when you start talking about fireplaces and chandeliers and things like that, I guess I kind of have a problem with that. And I'd like to see that us spend that money a little bit more smartly than that. And I guess the other thing I like to think about is that, you know, what is it we're trying to accomplish there? Are we trying to, you know, recreate a country club, or are we trying to make a very nice municipal facility there? And if the answer is the latter, then I'm not so sure we need some of the things that were listed in the bid. And and I'll leave it at that and let other people come.
Mayor, before anybody else, let me just add, I think that's a great point in terms of those other projects. The one difference in looking at the other projects that you mentioned and then this project is, the difference is the two people sitting in the back of this room. The difference before, when council reviewed the Safe Routes to School project, which in all honesty, we didn't do a good job of getting that presented to you and crossing our Ts and doing something as we should as a staff. Now, we go back out, we look at these projects together where Roy and Eric are doing a lot of the internal staff work instead of contracting it out. Rebid, the bid's open today and we're within budget, and we pulled some expenses off of that budget because we're doing some things in-house. So everything that we want on the Safe Routes to School project is gonna come to fruition because of staff being professionals and doing what they do and being really good at it. The same thing with the signal light. If there's items that we want to go back to the signal light, I agree. If that's a need in the community, we have the ability, now that the project's moving forward, to do those change orders inside and to still execute that at that level. As for a fireplace, I just know we got a lot of cold people and we need to warm them up some way, and that's really the only option we have if we don't have that.
They're supposed to go buy the liquor with the liquor license, and that's gonna warm them up.
Together, in tandem.
I guess I'd like to make a comment. This item came up in mid-2016, so we're just now getting around to this. Back in that time, I actually offered another solution for this problem, which was a residential building with a new roof, air conditioning, and bathrooms, and close the second floor of the existing clubhouse and use the lower floor for golf carts only. That did not get approved by the council at that time, and instead they chose this direction. During that discussion, I asked the question of Mayor Mitchell at the time, what happens if we tear into these floors and walls and we get some hidden costs that show up there? And the answer was, well, that may happen. We never really got an answer as to, well, what are we going to do about it? It does. So now that we've moved this safety repair project to include renovation, I think we need to get back to the original intent, which was public safety. I mean, it was electrical and structural. That was what I was told. And all this other stuff is new. I can point you to a previous project with Highland Lakes Golf Course temporary clubhouse that started out as a $9,000 building and became $43,000, and later added a deck and roof for up to $53,000. So, you know, that can certainly happen again here. It just happens over a series of projects. It doesn't happen all at once. But it has happened in the past, and that's what I'm concerned about here, is basically that we already have some requirements creep going on right now. And I like to stay with the original intent and not do the other stuff, unless you want to create another project.
My thoughts is, you know, I sat as a person in the audience when you all approved the $242,000 to do this improvement to the club. There was no discussion at that time on that all the architectural design and $32,000 was going to come out of this, because you all talked about these were the building costs, here's the expense, we're going to get bills on it. I just think you could alleviate your problem by just saying the $242,000 that you allocated to this project, you don't exceed the $242,000. So you take care of the structural and engineering and electrical problems first, and then you see how else you can enhance with the remaining money of that $242,000. So that might eliminate a fireplace. I have no desire for a fireplace in Texas, but I think you need to close out this program and get something done in the restaurant and in the clubhouse that's going to be effective. You know, the kitchen area needs repair. If you're going to have some sort of food in that, it needs to be taken care of. With the electrical problems that you have, it shorts out everything. So All I'm asking is you do the $242,000 that you had in the original plan when you voted on it in 2017 and move on. You can always change little nitpicky items to take care of the big items. But we don't need to sit here and say, well, you know, we need to eliminate a fireplace. Of course we need to eliminate a fireplace if we only have $242,000 and we've repaired what we needed to repair and there's no more money, that'll be eliminated. The thing is, you need to move forward with the program.
You're suggesting that we say with a cap?
Cap it off.
Well, but, and I just want to be real clear, are you suggesting that what's left of the 242, we expend it, and when it's done? Or are you suggesting something else?
That's what I'm hearing.
Well, I'm not sure where the $32,000 for an outside company to give us the plan, or architectural plan was ever thought about when you came up with the $242,000 originally. The $242,000 was the covering the expenses and what it would take to redo that clubhouse.
Well, when Gary brought that to us, he estimated that it would be $242,000 total cost for architecture, engineering, and construction costs for everything. And so that's what we approved because that's what he recommended to us. And we wanted to make sure we took care of that public safety issue. And that's what we did. Now, if there's some way through the work with these two gentlemen back here, doing some of the work that we can get more than just the structural, and I'm all for that. Right. But I'm having a little problem going beyond that initial scope by taking money from other places to accomplish it, I guess is what I'm getting at. And I'm not so sure that's what he was saying, Arch, that he just wanted to use what's left of the 196 and finish that out. I think
no,
you're indicating.
He's saying state with the cap of 242.
I didn't realize when you did it in 2017 that you all talked about having the architectural plans as part of that $242,000.
Yeah, it was soup to nuts. Everything it would require to accomplish that project was supposed to be included in that 242. I mean, that's the way I remember it. Ron, do you agree? Yeah.
So we're currently looking at just under 197,000 remaining of that 242. So going forward, we can either stick with that 197,000 roughly, or we can approve an additional amount if we care to, at whatever. Which right now they have asked for 68,000 from a different project.
Right.
So it's, you know,
Mr. Mayor,
if we don't approve that 68,000, then staff is going to have to go back and look at the plans all over again to see.
Can I make a suggestion? Normally, we kind of adopted this, we discussed 1 week and the next week we approved. I would recommend maybe we don't try and approve something tonight, and that I would ask Josh if he could go back to the contractor and find out what exactly could we get for 197? What could we get for 220? What could we get for 240? And then bring that back to council, and then we can discuss that next week and make the decisions as far as what we want to improve and how much we might want to take from Camille and Dawn to accomplish the things we think are most important. Is that fair?
And you have that right to make a motion to table.
But I'd like to get some feedback. If everybody is agreeable to that.
I don't think so. I think if you do that, you'll have a neighborhood the clubhouse is already closed. It's closed, it's been closed. You know, all you're doing is pushing it back to where it may have been opened back in September. Now you're talking about October and November, getting something back open again.
Well, you're only talking 2 weeks. I'm not talking about 2
Oh, you're
months.
talking, oh.
Listen, what I'm suggesting is, can we please get more information and then have an action item on the 19th, April 19th meeting? That's all I'm suggesting.
My biggest concern is getting something done that makes our clubhouse someplace that people want to go. For the last 4 years, it's been a place that I did not want to spend any time in. It's been a place my family, my relatives did not want to go eat. The environment that was within the clubhouse was unpleasant. And if we're going to have the building, if it's going to represent our city, if this is the image that we're putting out to people that are coming into our town, I think it needs to be appropriate in the quality that we put into it. Now, do we need a fireplace? Lord, no.
Do we need chandeliers?
Do we, yeah, I mean, ceiling fans
Maybe
are
on
fine.
the
I don't-
chandeliers.
But,
All
you
I'm
know,
asking is that we have some additional information brought back to us, and in 2
There
weeks.
were no
2 weeks.
chandeliers on the plan. It was ceiling fans.
Excuse me, do you want me to show them to you?
what
Right
I
there,
saw looked like a
right there.
chandelier.
That's right there. Yes, sir, that was part of the budget.
That looks like a lighting fixture.
But.
Excuse me, it's hanging from the ceiling and it looks big and fancy. But all I'm suggesting is a little bit more information in 2 weeks, and then let's make a decision based on additional info. That's all I'm asking for.
I think it's reasonable to expect to wait another 2 weeks and have a discussion about these kinds of things. But I think one of the things that gets missed in all this is the fact that this is a central place that people come to in the neighborhood, and they come from all around that neighborhood. It's central to Lago Vista, and I think it needs to be something that we can be proud of.
I don't disagree with that.
Yeah, this is gonna, it's basically comes down to the value to our community versus potentially, since we've brought other projects up, you know, are we giving up safety in other projects? So that's, as a council, that's something we've got to decide. Is 68,000, could it be used at that intersection, you know, for the things that, I think it was a paving portion
And lighting.
that was taken out.
Well, Mayor,
That's what's gonna be more valuable to our community, and that's, you know, what we have to evaluate.
Mayor, you were at that meeting when we talked about that CIP item. Nowhere did we discuss community value in the creation of this project. We were merely trying to solve a structural and electrical safety issue.
Right.
And 250 was a number, or 242 was a number that was provided to us. I thought I wanted to just close the building myself and do something different, but that's what survived. And I think we need to stick to the original intent. We're scope growing. If you want a renovation project, that's fine. It's another project for another day. You don't try to sneak it in because you got some available cash. That's not the way projects work. Projects have a defined scope and requirements when you go in and do it, and the pricing and the costing are all set against those parameters. Once you start changing those, you either get schedule delays, or you get cost overruns, or you get poor quality. You get one of those, you get two of those three. And I just don't, first of all, I don't think you should be voting on it tonight. And secondly, even when you come back in 2 weeks, I still understand that this was a safety question. This was not a renovation question.
Mayor, the previous team, I feel confident, would have taken this entire $242,000 budget and provided you a product that would not be sufficient for what $242,000 should have gotten you. I restate again, the talent in just Roy sitting back there against the wall is greater than $32,000 worth of design. I can totally understand not scoping a project, but I definitely don't agree with the fact that if we budgeted something as stewards of these dollars and of the community, we've got to get the most bang for the buck every time we spend a dollar. We've had that conversation collectively, and as staff, if we're not going to be good at that, if we're not really going to invest in expanding that dollar, then we're not the staff that you need to do this. And we want to be excellent stewards of the dollar to make sure we get every penny out of that 242. And I just don't think the previous plan was really working hard enough to make it reach that point. That's back to how we got to this point, and we'll make whatever work that the council says, but just know that every project that we look at, we're going to look at it, what's the max value we can get out of every single dollar.
Well, that's the reason why I'd like to get some additional information, because I recognize we're going to get some economies of scale and benefit from those two gentlemen back there. And I think we'll get more than what we originally anticipated from our money. And I'd just like to see a little bit more detail around that, and anticipate that we make some kind of vote, next week, or I'm sorry, next meeting, based on the additional information that you can bring back to us as far as what can be accomplished for various levels of investment.
I would make a motion that we table this issue until our next council meeting, and that we authorize Josh to contact the contractor and to provide for us information that will give us those options.
I will second that motion.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay.
Nay.
And one nay. The motion carries 5-1. Okay, we now move into our consent agenda. All matters listed under consent agenda are to be considered routine by the city council and will be enacted by one motion. There will not be separate discussion on these items. If discussion is desired, that item will be removed from the consent agenda and will be considered separately. Item number 8, resolution number 18-1749, a resolution by the City Council of the City of Lago Vista, Texas, approving the bill of sale, conveyance, and assignment, and thereby accepting such utility infrastructure from Hines Lake Travis Land 2 Limited Partnership. Item number 9, approval of the following minutes: February 1, 2018 special call meeting minutes, February 15th, 2018 regular meeting minutes, and March 1st, 2018 regular meeting minutes.
Mr. Mayor, I just have one comment. It was on the meeting minutes from February 1st. If we could pull that one. It's a very minor thing, but at the beginning of it, it recognizes who all was there. It said recognize that all council members were present, but Mayor Pro Tem Bland was not listed. So one of the others were wrong.
Okay, February 1st.
Electronic page 58.
So you're asking that we pull that one from the,
Consent agenda.
Okay.
That's already been done.
Oh, has it? Okay, okay.
Yeah, I've actually found that one earlier and sent a correction in
Okay.
to.
has it been corrected?
The minutes that will be signed.
If that's the case, I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda with the amended minutes.
Second. All right, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Hearing none, motion carries unanimous. All right, we now move into discussion. Item number 10, discussion regarding changing the status of the Board of Adjustment and Building Committee senior, junior alternate to regular members. Let's see, that's 10. And Arch, you are the lead on this one.
If it please the mayor, city manager, and council, before discussion, I'd like to read this into the record, that if the council approves that we, the city council of Lago Vista, will adopt an ordinance eliminating alternate members of the Board of Adjustment and Building Committee of the city of Lago Vista, replacing the senior alternate member as regular member, place 6, and the junior alternate member as regular member, place 7, the terms to expire in accordance with the practice of Lago Vista boards and commissions, in which places 1, 3, 5, and 7 end in odd-numbered years, and the terms of places 2, 4, and 6 in even-numbered years. I submit that as evidenced by Texas Local Code 7.8.211.008 which has been provided to council for consideration, that the Board of Adjustment may consist of 5 or more regular members, and council may choose not to have any not to have any alternate members. If council approves, then the building committee will follow suit and also be aligned consistently with the other Lago Vista boards, commissions, and committees, and be represented by 7 regular members. Respectfully submitted, Arch Davila, City Council, Place 3.
Question.
Yes, sir.
I have no problem with the proposal, first of all. I guess the question was, is previous council had said we could not do this. Does the new legal counsel concur or not?
You can increase the number of the Board of Adjustment, and you can, but you will have to enact an ordinance in order to, implement.
Do we have any concern?
This is just for
This is
discussion tonight, right?
Discussion.
Mayor, after this comment was made by council previously, we did investigate, we did contact Texas Municipal League. We got their opinion. It concurs with Dottie's opinion, probably was her opinion from before, and they just regurgitated it. But we did do that investigation based on Councilor Davila's concern, and Roy and I both have confirmed that this is something that we can do with our charter and with Texas Municipal Code.
So just to be consistent, you know, basically we have places, so they're not really tagged to our places, they're just identifiers of a position.
That's correct.
Okay, and I just didn't, are these state mandated places that we have here, or is it just for the
It's
purpose
just
of tracking?
it's just a continuation of the places that we currently have. We have place 1 through 5.
Right.
And so we would make the alternates.
I understand your intent, and I agree with your intent. My question is a consistency question.
Well, the consistency has.
Because of state boards, because yours are state boards, do we need to do the same thing with P and Z at a future date? Is it peculiar to state boards when you have places, or not?
It's not a requirement of state law to have places on your planning and zoning commission or any really board that you create here.
I see, okay.
We have 7 positions on P and Z.
No, you don't. But I was just thinking of consistency, that's all. And it's really not a showstopper, don't get me wrong. But I'm just trying. I agree with what you're trying to do.
How do we track what places are up on planning and zoning if we have not assigned them places?
They're just listed with expiration dates.
Yeah, the person who owns that.
I assume they all had places, I
No,
thought they were all the
no,
same.
they don't. That was really my
Well,
question.
Maybe that's something that.
It could be another item at a later date.
Well, Arch, when you bring back the ordinance next week, is your intent to continue having places 1 through 7 now instead of 1 through 5?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And will that be for both?
That would be for both the building committee and the Board of Adjustment.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. And the reason why I chose to do this is because we have alternates that show up to meetings, and they participate in the discussion about the items that are before the board or the committee. But I think that it diminishes their importance possibly in the fact that they can't vote. They just show up and they listen and participate in the discussion, and they don't have any voice in that.
Yeah, I felt the same about the airport, and that's what we changed that.
I was an alternate on P and Z, and I tell you, it's very frustrating coming up here and volunteering time and not being able to fulfill your role.
Exactly.
So I agree with what you're trying to do.
That's all I have there.
Any other questions? All right, we will go to agenda item number 11, discuss committee process. We have a handout that goes with that, should be at your station. It is not in the electronic version.
Josh, were you gonna talk? Do you want me?
No, sir, I was just gonna say that the handout was also provided to both legal and to the city secretary.
Mayor, we simply wanted to bring this for discussion. As you remember, we talked about this, gosh, a month or 2 ago. We decided to table the item at the time and go have a subcommittee discuss the issue and come up with a recommendation, and that's what we've done. There's a couple of comments I would make. We did expand it to a certain degree, which we wanted to keep it to one page and keep it simple. As we got through it, I think Ron found some stuff online. I think David had some suggestions, and we just had some good stuff, and we want it to be in there. Now, having said that, if anybody has any concerns or what have you with any of the items here, please don't hesitate to give us feedback. I do want to address one thing. We had Mr. Monahan that was here when we first tabled the item, and I thought he made some very intelligent comments about should we have this as a resolution, as an ordinance, and be in the city charter, what have you. And so I did have a conversation with Barbara, former city attorney, about this issue. And if you go look at the charter, it talks about what has to be in an ordinance, for example. And I think the thing that Tom was referring to was the regulation of people. And I talked through that with Barbara, and she didn't feel that this rose to the level of regulating people. This is a process that's being utilized for volunteers, basically, not trying to regulate the population as a whole. So she didn't feel like it had to be an ordinance. And what she recommended was that, and I think the entire subcommittee feels this way. If you disagree, speak up. We don't know that this is going to remain the way it is, okay? But we think it's a good idea. We want to put it into place, but we also want to get feedback as we move through this process and find out, do we need to make some adjustments? And Barbara recommended if you make it a resolution to start, it's easier to modify it as you need to. And then as you feel like you've got it settled out, turn it into an ordinance at that point. And I think the other thing that we'll likely want to do is create this as an ordinance piece that's referenced by the instantiating ordinances for each of the committees, so that we take out things that are in the committees that would be counter to what we all agree on should be in this particular document. That's down the road. It's not something we're suggesting we do today. We would like to implement this with any feedback that y'all have today. Use it for 6 months, find out if it's workable for us. And if it is, great, then we'll incorporate it as an ordinance and maybe make some adjustments to the instantiating ordinances for the committees. If it isn't, we can get rid of it. And so that's kind of the recommendation that we have. Now I'll step back and entertain any questions you guys might have. And Ron and David, if I misspoke on anything about what we agreed on, please say so.
I would have to say, in reading this, y'all miss short and sweet, but
Yes, sir.
I am much happier with the language and the way this is written than what we had initially.
Okay.
This gives more the feel that I think that our committee should have as to what their job is and how they do business. This is much more constructive. It's much more, I think, workable. And I think that it will help reduce any kind of conflict between committee, liaison, council that I really felt the other had in it. So, although when I first got this and started reading it, I went, okay. But I applaud all three of you on the job that you've done with this. There are areas that I never thought about putting in this that are in here that actually is a pretty good idea. And I think it shows how effective we can be when we put our heads together, but more than one head going on it.
Right.
But this is something that is a little more lengthy than I anticipated, but it's definitely something I feel is workable.
Well, that's because we added some stuff.
Yeah.
Well, I would just echo that if you do have feedback that you don't want to necessarily give right now, but you have some, by all means, please do it, and we can try and incorporate it before they finalize the ordinance for the next agenda.
Or resolution.
Mayor, for the
I'm
next
sorry,
one.
resolution. Yes, sir.
Mayor, we do have the resolution prepared, so we're ready. And it was actually ready well in advance of the creation of the agenda. I had pulled this item off thinking that we had discussed it enough and that it was ready for a vote. And then I was wrong, so we put it back on. But Roy and Sandra already have the resolution ready. So if you have any other comments and send them in, we can easily incorporate those and just bring back the ordinance the way it is here, or the resolution, and then we can make changes at the next meeting if so desired.
Anything else on agenda item number 11? All right, we will move into future meetings. Item number 12, consider schedule and items for future council meetings. And our schedule is pretty much set at this time.
And I think you know, but the Cat Metro folks that were supposed to be here tonight, we have attempted to make sure that they are here for the May 5th meeting. So just FYI, and if I get any feedback from Sam that that's not going to be workable, I will let you all know, you and Josh.
What's the date for the first May meeting?
I think it's the 5th. Maybe I'm wrong.
Maybe the 3rd?
3rd, I'm sorry, the 3rd. Yeah.
Cinco de Mayo is Lago Fest, so I think that was just your way of throwing that out there. So
Right, okay.
good job.
Yeah.
And I will not be present at that May 3rd and 4th, that May 3rd meeting.
What was that? I'm sorry.
I won't be present at the May 3rd meeting.
Anything else? I have nothing new. Okay, so that takes us to executive session. Again, for those of y'all who may be watching live, once we convene into executive session, the live feed will terminate, just so you're not staring at the wall behind me for the 4 hours that we're there. Once we come out of executive session, 4 minutes, I'm sorry, I misspoke. Once we come out of executive session, we will not restart the live feed again, as that would create a whole different video. So once we adjourn to executive session, that will end the live feed. And we look forward to the feedback on the live feed. So we're going to executive session. Item number 13, we will convene into executive session pursuant to sections 551.071, advice of counsel, 551.072, real property, 551.074, personnel, Texas Government Code, and section 1.05, Texas Disciplinary Rules of Professional Conduct regarding A, pending or threatened litigation pertaining to cause number D-1-GN-16-002483, Villa Montechino LP versus City of Lago Vista, Travis County 200th District Court. B, consultation with legal counsel concerning the possible real estate acquisition, management, or divestiture and attendant matters thereto.
And Mayor, I would recommend that item E, you take that in open session. There have been some attorney general opinions that talk about advisory committees not being proper in executive session. Item E.
E?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Agenda item number C, consultation with legal counsel concerning airport property. D, consultation with legal counsel regarding contractual claims or possible claims or charges, contractual modifications, and questions related thereto. Note, we have agenda item number E, consideration of applicants to fill a vacancy on the Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee. That will not be discussed in executive session. That will be discussed when we come back in open session. We will go to an executive session at 8:39 p.m. Jack is here.